Okay, hello everybody. I'm Gatica. And my TED Talk is on the awareness of propaganda. So today I want to bring you guys a random scenario. So when walking through the streets, you see a poster of, let's say, the 2016 presidential election for Donald Trump. So what would you do? Would you randomly ignore it, or would you stop and take time to examine and analyze what the poster is trying to say? You could shout anything. Just be honest.
I'd ignore it.
You ignore it?
Same.
Right? Okay. Okay. So today I'm basically talking about propaganda, of course, and what exactly is propaganda. And the definition that Webster gave is that propagandas are ideas or statements that are often false or exaggerated, and that are spread in order to help a cause, a political leader, a government, and etc. So when looking at propaganda, it gives you a few images of the certain situation you want to talk about, and they make you feel a certain way. So what are the uses of propaganda? So there's government. The majority is used for government, elections, protesting, and there's such more. So today we're mostly going to be talking about government because it's mostly being used in government, especially during war, and also getting veterans, as you could say. So, okay, so right here I have a picture of World War II propaganda. So, what is the first thing that comes out when you're seeing this? You could just shout it out.
Nazis.
Nazis.
War.
War.
Power.
Power. Okay. So I mostly asked people from around the campus, and the results were Nazis, like you said. The colors, majority is red. The Nazi sign, the swastika, which we all know it's part of the Nazis from Hitler. The use of wording, it's mostly vulgar wording. So, and also a woman beating up the Nazis. So, in case you didn't know. Okay. So, basically, what is the purpose of this propaganda trying to show us? So basically, this propaganda right here is basically informing women to join the war during World War II, because you know how women were viewed as, during the time of World War II, they were viewed as women that should be at home taking care of their kids, doing laundry and cooking and such. But this artist decided to create a propaganda that women should also fight in the war because they're also protecting their own country. So, if you can see, she's actually an American, so that's why. And also, it also shows how powerful people are, especially women, like Louise Angel said. So yeah. So, in connection to what I said for my results, it's the elements of propaganda that basically brings in people's attention. So when artists are creating propaganda, they follow the standards of aesthetics. I hope you guys all know what aesthetics are if you have social issues with Martinez. If not, the definition of aesthetics is the appreciative of response to or zealous about the beautiful. Also responsive to appreciate what is pleasurable to the senses. Webster. So basically, it's the standards of beauty, appreciating the art of beauty, mostly used in art specifically, even in propaganda. So the four types of aesthetics that are mostly used in propaganda is repetition. What that means is repetition of words, repetition of color, and repetition of style the art is. Simplicity, how simple it is. So let's say the piece of propaganda I showed you guys, it's basically all simple. It's giving a simple message that women can also join the war. Imagery. Imagery is very important in propaganda because that's what basically propaganda is. Without images, that propaganda wouldn't be propaganda, of course. So you also have to examine the images to see what they're trying to do and what they're trying to say to the audience that's looking at the image. And also the sentiment. So what message is basically being presented to the audience. So, for example, let's bring on the Iraqi war. So they want like people to join the Iraq war in order to basically win. So they try to create messages that want to connect with the Iraq war, so they can bring in more soldiers to the battlefield and such and etc. Okay, while doing my research, one book that also influenced me to do this was the book 1984, the same book that Edward read. So basically, it's like the manipulation of media, what it does to people and such. And one quote that basically caught my attention is "War is peace, ignorance is strength, freedom is slavery." So basically, that quote is saying that war is the only solution to have peace. Ignorance is strength. Being ignorant and being stubborn is what drives people to become more powerful. Like people like Stalin, or maybe the leader of Al Qaeda. I forgot his name. Sorry. And also like people of ISIS as well. So their ignorance is what's driving them to do the things that they're doing in order to like conquer the U.S. and try to beat the U.S. And also, freedom is slavery. So, for example, when it means freedom, it's basically saying that freedom gives us, basically controls us, because we have the power to do anything, but in reality, that what drives us to slavery. So, for example, for communism, so like people have the freedom to do everything. However, while the leader of that government, they're basically controlling the people. Like, even though they make it the same amount of everything, the leader's telling them what to do in order to get what they're trying to receive. And also, another thing I saw in 1984 was Big Brother is watching you. It also connects to communism. So, you guys all heard like what Big Brother is, basically the honcho, the big man. So basically, it's just saying that there's always going to be that one person that also always watches you. So, like for example, like in today's society, I heard you guys heard of Snowden, right? Snowden, yeah. So it basically explains how Barack Obama is basically watching us, the government's watching us through the internet and such. So basically, this quote is basically what stuck to me the whole time. And it's basically true because we're all being watched, like no matter what we do, while we're playing like video games like League of Legends, or we're just looking up at the internet or such like that. Okay, so basically the main problem with propaganda exactly is that it creates stereotypes. What I mean is that it creates rumors and lies about other people. So like for example, the Japanese or the Jews. Specifically with the Jews, Nazis mostly see them as like black demons that only want to eat and steal children, and they only want money for themselves, and they're so rich because they kept stealing their whole lives, and they think that's not a good thing. So that's why when Hitler was the Führer, he decided to go against the Jews for a legitimate reason, which I do not know which it was. Bandwagoning. So this is a very crucial part of propaganda. So when you're with a group of people who's looking at this piece of propaganda back, like let's say World War II again, people around you start to like say, "Oh, I agree with this poster because blah 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 blah," and then they're not really examining. They're just basically relying on the piece of images that they're showing within the propaganda. And that also causes you to like be like, oh, I agree with you guys. Let's do it. Let's go against the Jews. Yay. Also, it also breeds bad impressions. So like basically, you know how the word goes, first impressions are always the best impression. So it basically like tells us that maybe other people aren't that good, and like people are all evil based on like race or gender or like simple things, you know. So that's not really a good thing to deal with. And also the use of evidence. what I mean by evidence, quote unquote, it's a connection to stereotypes, basically. They're basically just spreading lies about the person, not giving real enough evidence as much as we want, making us think that we're the good guys. The U.S. is the good guys, and maybe other countries, like, for example, like maybe Syria, Iraq, Japan, North Korea, saying that we're evil. They're evil, since we're supposed to be the dogs of the police. So, but basically, why does this matter to us? It matters to us because we're the generation where war is still happening today. So, for example, like the refugees in Syria, we're still a part of that Syrian war. We're trying to help the Syrian refugees. The Iraq war, of course, which we got ourselves into, creation of ISIS, and it's still going on henceforth. As you can see in newscasts today, are just basically claiming that terrorist attacks are happening all over the place. Even back like in World War II, World War I, we were also included in that war because we're supposed to be the watchdogs, supposedly. So basically, the use of evidence, we're basically creating excuses just to create war or enter that war in order to stop the war. So, okay, so in today's propaganda, so this is propaganda today, 2015, 2016. So you can see that propaganda has evolutionized, like immensely. So now they started to use like more facts. They started to use money in their propaganda. As you can see, money is very important within our economy, even though our economy is broken. So you can see also like some elements of propaganda. So you can see how they use money. So like 74 billion Russian expenses for the Crimean military campaign. So it's basically sufficient enough to build a Burj Khalifa, 50 Burj Khalifa skyscrapers. So it's like one of the tallest buildings in the world. So it's basically using that amount could help us, the people, but they rather use it on money, on war, which makes no sense to me. But also what doesn't make sense to me is war is peace we can believe in, and they would use Barack Obama. So they're basically using the iconic person, which is Obama, the president of the United States. They're basically saying that, oh, if he's saying that war is okay, then we should probably believe in him, which I believe it's not okay, because war just creates more destruction and more chaotic results and a lot of entropy. So what can be done? So some solutions I have found is that we could create more regulations for the military so they can present propaganda in a more realistic way. So rather than just giving lies and superstition about other countries or religions or races, try to like examine them and like study their culture before we can judge them. Also, when looking at propaganda, don't try to bagwagon your way unless you have a real reason why you're going against the situation. And also, when looking at everyday propaganda, try to see the value of the message. Because if you don't see the value of the message, then what purpose is for propaganda to be here in today's society? Thank you.